Today, we uncover how a banker lost her life after a dispute with her husband about the kind of work she was doing at the bank. The lady, called Titiola, was employed at Sky Bank in Lagos State. A young woman navigating her life, ambitious, full of life, as described by so many. Her colleague described her as diligent, polite, and aspiring to build a responsible livelihood in a bustling city. She was married to Lled in November 2008, and together they had a daughter. From the outside, their marriage seemed to be on track. Steady job, family, resident in Isiolo, Lagos, and beneath the facade lays conflict, emotional strain, and mounting tension. Titilayo, the promise of stable life tragedy unfold in June 24th. That promise ended in violence. Her death became more than a secular homicide story. It crashed the harsh light on reality of domestic abuse and the suffering she was facing in her home that nobody was aware of. Titilayo Ward was a mixture of ambition and responsibility. Working at Sky Bank, she had a career track emerging. Like many women in Lagos middle class, she balanced work, home, and parenting. Her daughter's future mattered to her. Family members later recalled that she had a time confided in them about marital problems. She had, according to testimony, been subject to beating by her husband and had one at least occasion where the matrimonial home only returned after appeals from her family. She had run away from her matrimonial home to her family home after the constant abuse from her husband. Friends described her as down to earth, the kind of person who held her own and did not broadcast her struggle. As an academic note puts it, cases like hers underscore how educated women in Nigeria are not immune to domestic violence, even when they have incomes and careers. In the months leading to her death, neighbors say the couple quarreled were frequent and visible, gesturing and shouting, on occasions even getting to a point where they were physical. Rather than isolated marital arguments, her home had become a place where conflict had become a pattern. And yet, the broader society shows light about how negligent public intervention intends to be. The marriage between Titilayo and her husband registered more signs of stress than typical happy union that a marriage is supposed to be. Shortly after their wedding, they moved into their residence in Lagos, and in 2011, court recorded shows that the relationship was described by relatives as a cat and mouse relationship, categorized by reconciliation attempt followed by renewed conflict. Her father and stepmother testified that they had intervened multiple times in the marital dispute, but yet they never could have pictured that that would be the last time that they would see their daughter. Financial stress was a factor. Although Titilayo had a stable job, the household apparently had dependency and tendency around income and decision making. These were also references by the defense of her in-laws as a source of friction. Her husband, in his testimony, tried to blame the victim's family for interfering and claimed on record that the couple had been arguing about certain in-laws' behavior. The neighbor reported that on the evening of June 24, the couple had a loud argument. One tenant in the building said he heard a scream and saw her husband struggling out of the building with wounds on his palm. The same tenant claimed he had seen a knife with a broken handle in the yard. This laying of weakness quarrel, documented intervention, and physical sign of trouble set the stage for the tragedy followed. In June 24, in their apartment, reports say Titiola and her husband had argued that evening. Afterwards, neighbor heard unusual sound of struggle, followed by a very, very loud silence. The next morning, when Titilayo did not emerge and her husband was absent and behaving suspiciously, concern spread among neighbors and relatives, wondering where Titiola, someone known to always leave her house very early in the morning to go to work, was nowhere to be found. The rest of the building, neighbor apartments, and the security guard at the compound offered testimony that the husband left the apartment in a hurry. According to one account, he jumped out of a window. Some reports say it's from the fourth floor and sustained injury in his hands and abdomen. He had run after he had been end up killing the wife after a very, very intense argument. Titiola's body was discovered in July 4, 2011, and the scene shocked investigators. The forensics testified that the body showed a minimum of 76 stab wounds, including wounds to the face, chest, and limb. One particularly detailed a 10 x 5 cm rectangular angle on the left side of her chest and had multiple individual injuries over her heart. Inside the body, the forensic found damage to the chest wall and the diaphragm, liver and lungs, intestine and stomach. It stated that the nature of the wound fully penetrated front to back, ruled out any self-infliction. The violation nature of the assault indicated sustainable range rather than sudden accident. At the same time, the husband was arrested approximately 6 months later in December and was charged for murder. In the immediate aftermath, the community was shaken. A well-known young professional killed in her own home under the roof of a man supposed to be her husband, her protector, and the man that she's supposed to share her life with. The discovery of Titilayo's body was both delayed and tragedy in its context. Once concerned neighbors and family entered the residence, they found the remains on the floor in a state of decomposition. Identification took place and the apartment had evidence of struggle and blood. The post-mortem began in July 6 and lasted more than 5 hours. The forensics stated that the corpse had wounds sustained with both single edge and both edge blade. On the accused side, he had sustained an injury that did not penetrate, some described as defense wound on his hands and abdomen, and had admission that he had jumped from the fourth floor was used to explain his limb grint and hand injury. When the accused, Akolade, Titilayo's husband, was arraigned on December 21, the charge sheet alleged the murder occurred June 24th in the residence. He pleaded, however, not guilty. In the community, the murder generated shock. How a young banker with so much perspective and so much ambition could end up dead after a domestic violence in her own home. The trial of Akolade at the Ikeja High Court became detailed forensic intent to take place about the weaknesses and the evidence that was found in the residence. In the judgment, after evidence and testimony was given, Akolade claimed Titilayo fell on a knife she was using to stab him during a quarrel on his birthday, but the court identified as June 24th, essentially arguing accidental self-infliction. He further claimed supernatural factors, evil spirits had her fighting him and stabbing herself. In her judgment, Judge Akunu formulated three principal issues: whether the deceased was dead, whether the accused caused her death, and whether the act was done intentionally. She found all three factors in favor of the prosecution. She rejected the defense of self-infliction, and she stated that the husband was found guilty. The prosecution did not urge the case, but however, they made it known to the public of the dealings of the husband. And with all evidence being put in place, he was, however, arrested and sentenced to life imprisonment. My people, this is the news for today. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this post with your family and friends.